When my daughter left me at that nursing home, she didn't even look back. The sound of the automatic doors closing behind her still echoes in my chest, as if they locked me away from the life I once built. For months, no visits, no calls, not even a postcard. I tried to convince myself she was busy, but deep down I knew I had been discarded like an old photograph no one wants to frame. Then, one rainy morning, a man in a dark coat came to see me. He said he was a lawyer and that he carried something left for me by my mother, who had been gone for years, a box sealed and waiting for the right time to be opened. But before I tell you the rest of what happened, I'd love to know where you're watching from, your city or your country. I enjoy hearing that because it reminds me that every home, no matter how far away, carries its own stories too. They painted the nursing home beige and called it calming. Beige is what happens to stories when no one listens. The hall smelled like disinfectant and boiled vegetables. The television laughed at jokes that didn't ask us to answer. I counted the day by small rituals: pills in a line, a crossword in pencil, orchids in the window that pretended fluorescent lights were sun. We were a colony of good manners. Nadine wore cherry lipstick and said her son was stuck in traffic every Sunday. Mr. Alvarez put on a suit jacket for oatmeal so dignity could sit at the table. Florence, the morning nurse, braided her gray hair tight and called me Ms. Ruth, the way people speak to things they do not want to break. When she asked about pain, I pointed to the usual places: the hip, the sternum, the part of the chest where a daughter's silence lives. Hannah had driven me here with promises folded as neatly as the blanket on my lap. It's temporary, Mom. You'll rest? I'll visit every week. A temporary has a way of hardening into policy. The first week I waited for her heels in the corridor, the second for her voice on the phone. By the third, I waited for nothing and told Florence that Hannah was busy, as if busyness were a salve that turns abandonment into clerical error. On the 12th day, the receptionist dialed Hannah for me. Voicemail answered with my own tone, professional, polite. I left a message about orchids and the crossword clue for forsake. She didn't call back. I pressed my forehead to the glass doors and watched rain slice the parking lot into gray ribbons. Rain brings visitors, Nadine whispered. We watched together. No car pulled in. The administrator found me that afternoon, tie striped like a barcode. Ms. Ruth, a small issue with your account, he said, a smile balanced on policy. The initial deposit had cleared. The first monthly auto draft had failed. Bank's hiccup, he said. He asked for an updated card. I told him my daughter would handle it. As he left, he placed a form on my nightstand. Paper can look exactly like a door closing. After my mother died, Hannah's sentences started using words with sharp corners: assets, market, liquidate. She waved off drawers of photographs and recipes as junk and wanted a realtor. You always put feelings before facts, she told me. I said feelings kept the lights on during years when facts were unkind. She took my house keys for safekeeping. I tried to be grateful. In my room, I kept a small wooden jewelry box. Inside sat my wedding ring in a cotton ball jar, 2 sun-faded photographs, and an index card in my mother's tilted script, for later, if necessary. I had tucked it away years ago under a recipe for lemon bars and decided later meant never. With the administrator's paper humming on the nightstand, later started meaning today. I called Hannah again, straight to voicemail. I left a smaller message. Please call. Billing. Dignity is the coat you keep on when the heat cuts out. I carried the index card in my cardigan pocket like a passport to a country I wasn't sure existed. Near lunchtime, the intercom chimed. Ms. Ruth, a visitor for you. Nadine clasped her hands. See? Rain brings them. At the desk lay a business card. Heavy stock. Patrick J. Doyle, ESQ. On the back, in tidy blue ink, at the request of Eleanor Hart, my mother's name arrived like a key turning someplace I had forgotten. The man who rose from the lobby chair had rein on his cuffs and a posture that apologized to no one. "Miss Hart?" he asked, and the old name put my spine where it belonged. He said he was an attorney, here under specific circumstances described by my mother. The phrase carried the weight of a locked drawer. "What circumstances?" I asked. "That you were alone," he said carefully, "and might need clarity. Alone cut, clarity stitched." He set a small box on the table between us, wrapped in brown paper and tied with a pale blue ribbon. Next to it, an envelope with my name in my mother's hand. "Is there a private room?" I asked. We moved to the consultation room. Round table, 2 chairs, a print of a sailboat that had never met wind. "Do you want me to step outside?" he asked. "No," I said. "Just let me read." The envelope opened with the soft sound of old decisions. My mother's sentences walked out calm and stubborn. She wrote about debts that aren't money and the danger of telling truth to people who use it as leverage. She wrote that she had promised me something I didn't remember, and she had kept that promise against her favorite habit, control. In the second paragraph, she had written a date and beside it, "If Ruth is alone, deliver." It was the day Hannah drove me to the nursing home. Plans can masquerade as coincidence if you don't stare directly at them. "She knew," I whispered. "She prepared," the lawyer said. "Your mother was exact." I lifted the blue ribbon. The lid stuck, then gave. Inside lay a brass key on a faded tag, a smaller envelope with my name and a photograph. My mother in front of a green door I didn't recognize. The tag read, in pencil softened by years, "Safety deposit, Bank of Hawthorne." The key glinted. Possibility does that when it stops pretending to be fear. "Ruth," the smaller note said in her hand, "if you are reading this, you are ready or you are cornered. Either way, keep this key. Do not let affection be confused with permission." I heard her voice saying it at the sink over the sound of water and apple peels. She had believed the kitchen was where treaties were signed. "Your mother authorized me to help access the box," Patrick said, "and to present certain documents only with you present." He laid a typed authorization on the table, her signature blunt as a stamp, naming Safety Deposit Box 311. Beneath, in her pen, "For Ruth alone." Alone was beginning to sound less like abandonment and more like instruction. I pressed the key into my palm until it left a crescent. "If I open this," I asked, "do I start something I can't stop?" "You start something you probably should have started before someone else started it for you," he said. A knock. Florence peeked in. "Water. Do you need me?" Her eyes moved from the box to my face. "I'm all right," I told her, surprised to find it true. She nodded and left the door a fraction open. I called Hannah from the room. Voicemail. I tried again and left just 2 words. "Please call." I set the phone face down and studied the photograph. My mother's chin jutted. The door behind her had a steel mailbox and that stubborn green. I did not know it. I knew the look on her face, a promise about to be kept. The administrator tapped the door and slid his head in. "Apologies, Ms. Ruth. Billing needs an updated card by end of day." His eyes lingered on the box. "I'll handle it," I said, and felt something unbend. He withdrew, disappointed that my helplessness had taken a lunch break. "Where is Bank of Hawthorne?" I asked. "Downtown," Patrick said. "They expect us. Your mother arranged it. She used to say a woman must keep one key for herself." I had pretended she meant principal. She had meant principal and brass. I slid the key into my cardigan pocket. "Do you want your daughter present when we open the box?" he asked. I thought of Hannah as a child with a grape-stained mouth and of the woman with a white line for lips who left me at the lobby doors. "I'll tell her afterward," I said. "If this is proof, I will bring it to her." We walked the corridor past lives set to low volume. Nadine lifted a thumb. Mr. Alvarez saluted with his spoon. At the desk, I signed the visitor log. Under reason for visit, I almost wrote clarity and settled for meeting. Outside, drizzle thinned the heat. I hesitated at the threshold. The world had kept going without me. It felt rude to interrupt. Patrick held the door and said, "Your mother left me a sentence to use if you wavered." And do I? A little. What's the sentence? She said, "Tell Ruth the box holds proof, not poison." Proof. The word rearranged the furniture in my chest. I stepped into the rain. In the car, my phone lit. "Hannah," I answered. "Mom, the home called. It's a billing glitch. I'll fix it." "I'm going to the bank," I said. "A lawyer came with something from your grandmother." Silence. "What lawyer? What bank? Why are you leaving the facility without telling me?" "Because I am not a facility. Because it's mine to open," I said. "I'll call you after." "You don't know what you're doing," she snapped. "Maybe I'm done shrinking," I answered. The call dropped. "Call failed," the screen declared. We drove in a hush made of wipers. Hawthorne Avenue poured us toward a building of glass. Inside, the bank smelled like air conditioning and old intentions. A manager greeted Patrick by name. Papers appeared. Pens clicked. We were led to a corridor where the doors had the authority of myth. At box 311, I pulled the key from my pocket. It turned with a small satisfaction. The manager slid out the drawer and left us in a small room. The lid lifted to reveal a stack of papers bound with a ribbon, a flash drive in a small case, and an envelope sealed with wax bearing my mother's initials. Patrick didn't touch any of it. He watched me as if claim had to happen from the inside out. I undid the ribbon. On the top page, I saw my name paired with a word I had not expected to see beside it. I stopped long enough to feel my pulse. The word was will. Not my mother's, mine. A copy executed 3 months before she died, naming me as beneficiary of the house and savings, with conditions in her hand. Paper rustled beneath, a notarized letter explaining those conditions, a handwriting sample stapled to it, a bank transfer receipt highlighted in yellow. The flash drive label said video, E-Heart. Proof multiplies when light touches it. Patrick exhaled. "There's also a document I'm to read with you present," he said, holding a sealed letter. "Your mother wrote it for this day. Read it." He broke the seal and glanced up once. "Ruth," he read, "if you are hearing this, I trust that necessity has arrived. Enclosed are 3 proofs. The executed copy of my will confirming the house is yours, a receipt showing funds placed in a separate account in your name, and directions to a recording I made to prevent anyone from confusing my wishes. If anyone contests, call Patrick. He has my instructions." The bank manager returned. Patrick asked for a conference room with a computer. She led us to a space with frosted glass and a waiting screen. I held the flash drive like a tiny ship. My mother's sentence, "Do not let affection be confused with permission," rose again, circling us. "Ready?" Patrick asked. I nodded. "If my mother left me proof," I said, "it's time to look her in the eye." The bank's conference room held its breath the way institutions do when a family is about to stop pretending. Patrick slid the USB into the computer. One file waited on the screen. A heart message, MP4. "Now?" he asked. "If I wait, I'll edit her with memory," I said. "Play it." My mother appeared at her kitchen table, the burn mark shaped like Kansas just visible. Blue cardigan, chain for her glasses, notebook under her hands. "Ruth," she said, steady, "if you are looking at me this way, it means the polite door has closed. I'm going to be plain. I executed a will leaving my house and savings to you. There are reasons. Hannah is my granddaughter and I love her, but love is not a notarized document." She lifted a paper to the camera. "A copy sits with this letter. I instructed that the box be delivered when you are alone. When people stand over you saying family like a password, you forget which rooms are yours." She turned a page. 6 months ago, Hannah visited me without you. She asked about titling the house to her to make probate easy. She used helpful words and a gentle voice. I declined and she left politely, which can be as sharp as anger. I am not angry with her. I am angry at the wind that tells women to be manageable. She leaned closer. "If anyone contests, call Mr. Doyle. There are 3 proofs: the will, a letter to the bank, and this recording. Ruth, do not confuse affection with permission." The video ended on the faint click of the camera. I hadn't realized I'd been gripping the table. Patrick touched the keyboard. We'll copy it and tell the bank to preserve the file and their log." The manager, hair braided into a practical crown, brought a sealed envelope with the bank's logo. Inside lay my mother's signature card and a contemporaneous statement in her tidy hand, delivered to Ruth only when she is living alone or held elsewhere without consent. The banker read it twice, then met my eyes with something like recognition. Why had my mother insisted on alone? What did she know would happen when others watched me open my own life? Patrick asked to verify the second account. The banker pulled up the screen. "An account ending in 713 in your name," she said. "Payable on death to a charity, not to an individual." She printed the balance and dates. We compared it to the bank transfer receipt from the box. Amounts and times matched. "She structured it to keep pressure off you," Patrick said. "Very deliberate." "Or very her," I said, and heard the tremor in my voice. My phone buzzed. "Where are you?" "From Hannah," I replied. "With lawyer, bank. Grandma left documents and video. We'll call later." The typing dots arrived, vanished, returned, then went out like a tide that hadn't decided which shore to keep. We left with a folder, a copy of the video, and the weight of someone else's forethought in my bag. Outside, the rain had given up. I wasn't ready to go back to Hawthorne Care. "I want to find the green door," I told Patrick. "You recognize it?" he asked. "No, but it looks like something I used to know." We followed the photograph's clues to a narrow street. There it was, paint flaking in confident strips, steel mailbox like a square jaw. Under the mat, taped in a bag, waited a note in my mother's hand. "If you need a room that is yours, use this. Inside, lemon oil and dust. On the counter, another envelope. A lease photocopy with my name as tenant, rent prepaid for 2 years beginning the week she died. Below, a short letter. Your room, if you need it. No one else has a key. P.S. If anyone calls this dramatic, remember, they benefit when you are smaller." I laughed once, a sound that shook something loose. "She nailed the rug to the floor," I said. "She built you a corner that can't be rounded," Patrick answered. "If I stepped into a room built to my scale, who would knock, and with what right?" We returned to the home. Florence met me at the door, eyes warm, voice careful. "Your daughter has called 3 times, she said. "She's on her way." "Good," I said, and felt how the word didn't wobble. In my room, I put the USB into my small jewelry box beside my ring and placed the photo of the green door on top. Patrick sat by the window. "What do you want when she arrives?" he asked. "Her attention," I said. "On my mother's words, on paper that resists interpretation. That can be hard for people who prefer interpretations to facts. She prefers outcomes," I said, and then finds the words. He smiled a little. "Then let's use proof that doesn't bargain. Would proof hold in a room where love had been leveraged, or would the old currency buy my silence again?" Hannah arrived at dusk with a smile that looked like a polished headline. She kissed the air near my cheek, scanned the room, and fixed on Patrick. "Who is this?" she asked, hand on her bag. "The attorney your grandmother retained," I said. "The one she instructed to deliver a box when I was alone." Her smile didn't move. "Alone? That's cryptic. Or precise," Patrick said. "Your grandmother was precise." I gestured to the common room. Florence had wheeled in the little TV and found the adapter like she kept it for emergencies that weren't medical. We sat, Hannah on the chair nearest the exit, me on the edge of the bed, Patrick by the door like a quiet witness. I pressed play. My mother filled the screen. When she said, "Hannah came without you," my daughter's jaw tightened. "She was confused," Hannah said quickly. "She forgot things. She remembered the sentences she wanted notarized," I replied. We watched to the end. I paused the frame on my mother's face and set the will and the bank letter on the tray table. I tapped the blue ink line. "Delivered to Ruth only when she is living alone or held elsewhere without consent." Hannah didn't reach for the papers. "Mom," she began, "this isn't about money. It's about safety. You fell last winter. The neighbor told me. You aren't managing the stairs." "You managed me instead," I said. into a place with grid schedules and polite captivity. That's not fair, she said, the edges of her voice fraying. Fair is a debate. This is a document. I slid the bank receipt across. Your grandmother moved more than sentiment. Hannah read the numbers like a language she wished were abstract. She left you the house, she said. And this account. She did, I said. And there's a room where my name is on the lease. Her eyes flashed. A lease? Where? A place that is mine before it is anyone's opinion, I said. Patrick stepped forward. Ms. Hart, if you intend to contest, you may retain counsel. We have the executed copy, the bank's contemporaneous records, and the video. We'll proceed calmly. Contest? She repeated, as if trying out a pair of shoes she wasn't sure she could walk in. I'm not yet. If she chose to fight, would she reveal what she had already set in motion, or would something else reveal it for her? She stood and went to the hallway window. The orchids looked relieved to be included in a conversation. I joined her. Hannah, I said softly, do you remember the night of the fever? I sat on the bathroom floor because the tile kept me awake. I would have sold the table for the medicine. Don't call that weakness, and don't call my wish to live in my house dramatic. Respect is not paperwork, it's a key. Her shoulders dropped a fraction. I was scared, she said. The porch, the stove. What if you burned the pan? I burned my life smaller, I said. I'm unburning it. She stared at the glass. Our faces floated there like neighbors. What do you want from me? She asked. Watch your grandmother with me, I said. Then decide if you can stand next to that truth without turning it into a plan. She nodded once, the way you nod when you want to agree later. I need time. You have the time that is yours, I said, but not mine. When we returned to the room, Patrick offered a next step. I can schedule a meeting tomorrow, he said. Bring counsel if you like. We'll go through each document. She looked at him like a locked drawer. I might. Florence brought tea and placed a cookie on the saucer the way you offer strangers a bridge. Hannah picked it up, set it down, then took a bite like a truce. If you move back to the house, she said carefully, you'll need help with repairs. Contractors will overcharge you. Then I will learn their language or hire someone who speaks it, I said. Help is welcome. Control is not. She glanced at Patrick. Can we talk alone? We are, I said. He's a witness. Clarity likes witnesses. Would she try to separate me from my proofs the way you separate a pawn from its rank, one square at a time? A nurse rolled a vitals cart past the doorway. The cuff hissed like a whispering audience. Hannah reached into her bag and pulled out my house keys, heavy on the old brass ring. I took these for safekeeping, she said, laying them on the tray table. The sound they made was a small bell rung in a chapel. I can bring your boxes from storage if you're moving. I am, I said. Tomorrow. She looked almost relieved, then wary. Where will you sleep? In a bed that knows my name, I said, and saw the puzzle form behind her face. Patrick stood. We'll leave you two for tonight, he said. I'll call in the morning. Ms. Hart, if your schedule allows 10 o'clock? She nodded. I'll confirm. She hesitated at the door and turned back to me. Mom, please, don't make this a fight. It already was, I said gently. We're just calling it by its name. If she smiled and left, was that peace or the start of a quieter war? After they were gone, the room felt taller. I placed the keys in my cardigan pocket and the USB back in the jewelry box with my ring. I wrote the green door's address on a sticky note and slid it under the box like a seed. Florence peeked in. How did it go? She asked. Like turning on a light in a room full of arguments, I said. She smiled. Lights attract moths and also let you see them. I'll sleep here, I said, and leave early. Do you want to wake up? She asked. Yes, I said. For the past and the present, when the hallway dimmed, I lay back and counted breaths the way she taught me. In for 4, hold 2, out for 6. In the dark, my mother's line kept me company like a lamp left on in another room. Do not confuse affection with permission. My phone blinked. A message from an unknown number. We should discuss your mother's estate. New counsel retained. L. Turner, Esquion. The name was my son-in-law's business attorney. Not subtle. I turned the phone face down. By morning, Would I wake to the quiet work of moving, or to a letterhead at my door trying to rename what my mother had already called mine? I didn't sleep so much as idle in the dark the way an engine keeps warm in case the road changes its mind. At 5, Florence knocked softly. "Morning, Miss Ruth," she said, and her voice carried the relief of someone who likes clean starts. I dressed in clothes that weren't quite mine, elastic waist, sensible shoes, and tucked my mother's note into my pocket as if a sentence could be a spine you borrow. By 7, Patrick called. "Hannah confirmed for 10. Conference room at the bank. I'll bring copies." He paused. "How are you?" "More vertical than yesterday," I said. "That's something. Sometimes standing is an argument," he replied. I signed discharge forms, temporary leave they called it, and Florence hugged me in the hallway where hugs get dispersed like contraband. Nadine lifted her lipstick like a toast. "Rain brings visitors," she whispered. "Today it looks like sun." Mr. Alvarez saluted with a custard cup. The parking lot was still wet, and I could see where my daughter's tires had hesitated the night before, a pair of commas in the shine. In the car, I read the unknown number text again. "We should discuss your mother's estate. New counsel retained. L. Turner, Esco, my son-in-law, Lester, loved a letterhead the way some men love a mirror." Patrick drove. "Expect different faces today," he said, eager to define terms. "They'll call it clarity," I said, then try to cloud the window. We arrived early. The bank's lobby smelled like yesterday shined. We took the same elevator, the corridor repeating itself with the patience of good stationery. In the conference room, I set the 3 pieces of evidence in order: the will copy, the bank's letter, the USB. Proof lined up like chess pieces that recognized their squares. Hannah arrived with a woman in a slate suit and shoes that could cause a blister without breaking stride. "This is Laura Turner," she said, not quite looking at me when she introduced her. "Lester's attorney, yes, but today, here for me since Lester's in meetings." Laura's handshake was cool and conveyable. Patrick introduced himself and slid business cards across the table with the hygiene of professionals. "Before we begin," Laura said, "Ms. Hart, this is not adversarial. We're here to understand your mother's wishes and ensure your safety." She said safety the way people say liability. "My mother's wishes are documented," I said gently, tapping the papers. "We'll review," Laura said, "and discuss options that keep everyone protected." Protected from what? I wanted to ask. From me living like an adult? Patrick opened a folder. "Eleanor Hart's will," he said, "executed and witnessed, with this copy deposited in the safe deposit box. A letter to the bank specifying delivery conditions. A video recording of Miss Hart explaining her intent. We also have confirmation of an account in Miss Ruth Hart's name." Laura smiled with the patience of a person who had scheduled 3 meetings between 10 and noon. "We acknowledge the documents exist," she said. "We may question their relevance to current capacity, however." "Miss Hart, you've had a fall?" There was concern. Hannah shifted on her chair. "I just want my mother safe," she said, eyes glassy but dry. "Safety is not custody," I said. "Safety has to fit." Laura's pen hovered. "We could discuss a limited guardianship," she said pleasantly, "or a power of attorney to ensure bills." "Miss Turner," Patrick said, calm as a hand on a ruffled page, "before we erect scaffolds, let's confirm the house's title and the bank's records. And there's a lease Miss Hart has for a residence prepared by her mother. May we proceed with the reading of the relevant passages?" Hannah's mouth tightened at lease. She hadn't heard that part last night. Not all of it, anyway. "What lease?" she asked. "An apartment," I said. "My mother prepaid it in my name. It's a room no one else can claim to manage." Laura's eyes flicked between us like a metronome. "We'll need to see the lease and verify the property's habitability," she said. "These are practical concerns." "And practical is your favorite word," I said to Hannah before I could soften it. "Do you remember when practical meant spearmint gum tucked in my coat before the parent-teacher conference? Practical can be tender. It can also be a leash." The bank manager entered with printouts. the neutral mercy of her expression a kind of decorum. She confirmed the account, the notation, the letter in my mother's hand. Patrick cued the video. My mother filled the screen once more. Blue cardigan, Kansas burn mark. When she said, "Love is not a notarized document," Laura's pen paused. "Ms. Hart," Laura said when the video ended, "you've obtained these materials without your daughter present. It's possible your mother's stipulation that you be alone implies a period of vulnerability." "It implies clarity," I said, "and the difference is not semantic." Patrick laid a supplemental sheet on the table. My mother's handwriting sample authenticated by the notary who had witnessed her signature months earlier. A receipt, the bank's logs, evidence that would not bend just to be liked. If they couldn't bend the documents, would they try to bend me? Laura pivoted to tone. "Hannah's concern is admirable," she said. "Any child would worry. Ms. Hart, would you consider granting temporary authority for health and housing decisions to reduce friction while we sort this out? It avoids court." "Court is where there's a record," I said. "We may need one." Hannah looked stricken. "Mom, I don't want court." "Then don't make me choose between my house and your comfort," I said, and felt my voice settle. "You can help me move, or you can send papers, but I will open my own door." Patrick's phone buzzed. He glanced, frowned almost imperceptibly, and slid it face down. Laura noticed. "Predators notice hunger." "Something to share?" she asked. "Not relevant to this meeting," he said smoothly. Later, he would show me the screenshot, an email forwarded anonymously from a realtor to Lester. Subject line, "Property Inquiry, Expedited." Date, the week after I was admitted to the nursing home. My house's address in bold. "We should talk timelines," Laura said, filling the space. "If Miss Hart insists on moving today, the facility may require notice and the house may not be ready. It's surprising how quickly a person becomes not ready when other people benefit from her staying put," I said. "Mom," Hannah murmured. "Please." "I'm not shaming you," I said, and meant it. "I'm reminding you of the shape of me. You've been outlining me with your pen too long. If I drew my own outline, would she invert the page?" We broke for 10 minutes. Patrick walked me to the window that overlooked a strip of sky. "You're doing well," he said. "They're testing for fracture lines." "I'm older," I said. "I've been fired from being a younger woman. The new job doesn't come with a manual." "It comes with keys," he said. When we returned, Laura's composure had not cracked. It had polished itself. "We propose this," she said. "Miss Hart moves to the leased apartment for 1 week while we arrange a home assessment. During that week, all financial transactions require co-signature from Miss Hannah Hart for protection. No sale, no transfer. After the assessment, we revisit." Patrick didn't blink. "No," he said. "Miss Hart will not cede autonomy that her mother secured with explicit instructions and proof. If you wish to file a petition, do so. We'll respond." Hannah looked at me, something panicked swimming just under the water. "I'm not your enemy," she said softly. "I have a child too. I know what it is to lie awake with fear." "You learned fear's voice," I said, "but fear doesn't get the deed." We adjourned with the politeness that covers teeth. Hannah kissed my forehead, a gesture that felt like a memory trying to attach itself to a present that did not consent. Laura shook hands, left a packet, promised to be in touch, which is what people say when they intend to be in the way. Patrick walked me not back to Hawthorne Care, but to the Green Doors address. The air in the apartment had that stillness rooms have before the first decision is made. I opened a closet, a few hangers, drawers, empty except for contact paper printed with lemons. On the counter, a small key labeled storage. In the bedroom, a bed with a plain blue quilt. I sat and felt the mattress accept me. I cried then. Not from grief, but from the relief of being outlined by walls chosen for me by someone who wanted me to fill them. We went to the storage unit 2 blocks away. The key fit, the door wobbled upward. Boxes labeled in my mother's handwriting. Linens, kitchen, books. A smaller box marked Ruth, private. Inside, the photo albums, my high school yearbook, a cigar tin with ticket stubs, a shoebox of letters, an envelope of receipts clipped together with a rusty binder clip. On each stack, a sticky note in her script: keep, consider, throw away unless you insist. I opened the envelope of receipts. Half were utilities and taxes, my house paid. The other half were donations and hospital bills. In one corner, a plumber's invoice dated 8 days after I was admitted to the home, replaced kitchen faucet, spoke with daughter about updating property. It had a phone number and a name, Glenn. May I? Patrick asked. I handed it to him. He took a photo, then dialed from his own phone, speaker on. Glenn's Plumbing, a man answered. Hi, Glenn, Patrick said pleasantly. I'm calling regarding an invoice from March for 12 Mapleside. Do you recall whether you met the homeowner? Lady wasn't home, he said. Daughter let me in, said she was handling renovations, wanted a quote on tearing out cabinets. I told her my schedule was packed. She said they needed it fast. Thank you, Patrick said. One more thing. Did she mention selling? Silence like a glance. Not in so many words. But people don't tear out cabinets for nostalgia. Patrick ended the call. We looked at each other. Not proof of wrongdoing, he said, but it reflects intent. My life was turned into a project plan, I said, with me as the outdated fixture. If the fixtures were new, would they still evict me? We brought 3 boxes to the apartment and left the rest in the unit. I made tea in a pot that remembered me from the old house. I sat at the tiny kitchen table and wrote a list. Change locks, utilities, call contractor for estimate, my contractor, open windows, buy soap, tell Hannah the plan, call Florence to thank her, call the neighbor, Mrs. Porter, the one with the roses that throw their scent over the fence. I called Mrs. Porter. She sounded like a porch. Ruth! Oh, honey. They said you were at one of those places. I made a pie and didn't know who to hand it to. I'm moving back, I said. Tomorrow. Would you look at the porch light? I think it's wobbly. I'll send Jim, she said. I'll make 2 pies, one for stubbornness. I laughed. I'll bring stubbornness. You just bring sugar. Patrick had to go to his office. Call me if Laura files, he said, and keep the USB separate from the papers. I can hide things, I said. I just spent months hiding my humiliation in the linen closet. When he left, the apartment felt like a hotel where the guest is expected to become the owner by making the bed. I opened the shoebox of letters. There were notes between my mother and me from the years when we practiced being women to each other. One, written when Hannah was 8, asked if I felt guilty for still wanting things that weren't my child's needs. I wrote back that desire didn't end when PTA started. She wrote in the margin, keep 1 key. The door buzzed. I wasn't expecting anyone. A courier stood in the hallway with a tube. Ms. Ruth Hart, he asked. Signature, please. The label read, Turner & Cole LLP. Inside, an urgent letter. Request to freeze transactions pending capacity evaluation to prevent irreparable harm. The phrasing had the chilly syntax of someone who has learned to weaponize concern. I called Patrick. He took 2 rings to pick up. They moved fast, I said. They want to catch you before you breathe, he said. I'll file a response this afternoon. You're within your rights. Your mother's documentation is strong. I know, I said, but my hand still shook. It's one thing to be right, another to be alone with rightness in a room that just learned your name. My phone lit with Hannah's name. I answered. Mom, she said. Breath rushed. I didn't know Laura sent a freeze. She works for you, I said. For Lester, she snapped, then softened. For us, she said, to buy time. Time you could have asked me for, I said. Time that has a mother instead of a letterhead. She was silent long enough for the hallway to tick. Can I come over? She asked. Without Laura? Yes, I said. I'm alone. Come see what that looks like. She arrived with the same bag, but her face had less scaffolding. She walked in and paused at the window. It overlooked a small courtyard where a tree had learned to grow despite the limits of concrete. She touched the windowsill like it could tell her how to stand. This is nice, she said. It was the gentlest sentence she had offered me in months. My mother prepaid it, I said. She wanted me to have a place that didn't require a committee. Hannah sat, let her bag slide to the floor, and did not reach for it. I thought, she began and then stopped. I thought I was protecting you from aging out of your house the hard way. The hard way, I repeated. Or your way. She closed her eyes. Both, maybe. We sat with that. I made tea while silence stretched its back. She wandered to the boxes and lifted a photo album. A picture slid out. Hannah at 6 with bangs too short, a birthday hat like a small tower. Behind her, my mother, mid-laugh, her hand on Hannah's shoulder. On the back, in my mother's script, Hannah is 6 and already negotiating. We smiled at the same time, then met smiles and looked away, embarrassed to be allies even for a second. I met with Mrs. Porter last week, Hannah said suddenly. She told me the porch steps were a lawsuit waiting to happen. She scared me, Mom. She scares birds from her blueberries with just a look, I said. She scares everyone. But she also brings pies to people who forget they are still invited to the table. I softened my tone. You could have told me you were afraid. You could have said yes before I built structures, she said. Maybe we're both engineers. We can build without building over, I said. Her phone vibrated against the table. She ignored it. That was new. If we changed tone, would the facts agree to stay changed? She took a breath that shook like a ladder. Lester wanted to list the house, she said quickly, each word like a stepping stone you're not sure will hold. Just to see. He said timing is everything in the market. He made it sound responsible. I told him no until we talked to Laura. I said we'd wait. He went ahead and asked for plumbers and painters. He said it's easier to ask forgiveness. He was always more fluent in apologies than permission. Did you sign anything? I asked. My voice did not tremble. Capacities gather slowly, and then all at once. No, she said. I didn't. But I took your keys, I let them in. I told myself it was for safety. I hear myself and I want to start over. You can't start over, I said. You can start again. I slid the plumber's invoice toward her. Glenn told us you wanted cabinets out fast. She winced. Reed nodded. That's on me, she said. I'll call him. I'll call whoever else needs calling. I won't hide in procedure. The buzzer sounded again. Another envelope? My stomach dipped, but it was Mrs. Porter, holding a pie wrapped in a dishcloth patterned with cherries. Well, look at this, she said, peering into my rented kitchen. You back among the living, Ruth? I'm test driving autonomy, I said. Good, she said briskly. I made lemon meringue. That one tells the truth. She set it on the table, met Hannah's eyes like a mirror, and then turned to me. Jim can fix the porch tomorrow. He'll write it cheap on account of minding his business generally, which is rare. Thank you, I said. Don't thank me, she said. Just be there when the pie cools. Gravity does the rest. She left in a gust of roses. Hannah smiled despite herself, wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, and said, She terrifies me. Good, I said. She terrifies termites. They keep their distance. We ate pie with forks, no plates, because sometimes civilization is a napkin and a decision. Then Hannah's phone vibrated again, insistently. She answered this time, turned away, listened. I'm with my mother, she said into the phone. A pause. Her mouth thinned. No, Lester. We're not listing. I said no. Stop. Do not change the locks. I have them. I'm returning them to her. She hung up slowly, placed the phone on the table, and slid the keys toward me with both hands like a ceremony. You'll need a locksmith, she said. Today. I know a man, I said. He is married to a pie baker. She laughed, choked, laughed again. It was a sound I recognized from when she was 10 and the kite we made actually flew. Patrick called back with news. We filed a motion to deny the freeze, he said. A judge can hear it tomorrow. Given the documentation, I like our chances. Tonight, change the locks. And, Ms. Hart? Yes? If you have any paper with your mother's handwriting noting intent related to the house, old letters, anything, we should include them. I thought of the index card that had lived under the recipe for lemon bars in my jewelry box, for later, if necessary. I have a sentence, I said, and sometimes a sentence is enough to rearrange a room. I dug for the card, held it to the window, read it again. Keep one key. Below, in smaller letters I had missed before, and one room. She must have added it later, her script hedging into new ink. The timing wasn't evidence, not legally, but it was a map. Hannah watched me reading. What does it say? She asked. It says my mother knew the thing we are discovering, I said. That safety without dignity is only a prettier trap. We drove to the house. As we turned onto Mapleside, my chest shifted. The porch did look like a lawsuit. Paint the color of old acceptance. The front door, red once, now a cautious pink. I put my key in the lock and felt it hesitate and then remember me. Inside, the air held that familiar talc of books and old rug. A strip of painter's tape clung to a baseboard like an accusation paused mid-sentence. We walked room to room. In the kitchen, a sample tile leaned near the sink, bright and modern in a way that insulted the stove. Hannah traced the counter with 2 fingers. I wanted to fix things, she said. I didn't notice what that meant. It meant replacing the places where memory sits, I said. A car door slammed outside. We looked at each other. Hannah whispered, Lester. He came in like a meeting, not a person. Hannah, he said, sharp, then saw me. Miss Hart. He nodded to Patrick, who had met us at the curb quietly. He had a way of appearing when the plot required witnesses. We're not listing, Hannah said before he could begin. We're done. Laura says we should freeze, he started. Laura is not my mother, Hannah said, correcting something fundamental in the room. Lester's eyes slid to the counters, the tape, the faucet Glenn had replaced. It's irresponsible not to capitalize, he said. Aging in place is a fantasy. Liability, Patrick lifted a hand. Mr. Turner, this is not your legal matter today, he said. Unless you are here as counsel, which I doubt given your familiarity with this kitchen. Lester flushed. He is handsome when flushing, which I imagine has rescued him often. I'm looking out for the family, he said. Look inward, I said. You might find one. He laughed without humor. You think you can handle this house? The stairs, the bills? I handled you living off my daughter's certainty, I said. Stairs are honest. He moved toward the door, then paused. Don't make us take this to court, he said. Do, I said. Bring your filings. Bring your fear. Bring your favorite word, liability. I will bring my mother. I put my palm on the wall. She's in these studs and in this lease and in a bank's back office where paperwork lives longer than our pride. He left with a theatrical shake of the head that probably worked well in boardrooms. Hannah closed the door behind him, leaned her forehead against it, then turned and hugged me the way a daughter remembers. It wasn't an apology. It was circulation. If he went to court, would the judge hear the house breathing? We made a list of repairs with Jim at the porch. He spoke like a man who has trained his toolbox to tell the truth. He would start tomorrow at 8. Mrs. Porter promised to supervise, which meant progress. Evenings settled in the kitchen the way evenings do when you've invited them by making tea. Hannah sat at the table while I opened a drawer and found my mother's old address book. The pages were thin, a history of friendships and dentists. In the back pocket, a folded paper, a photocopy of the deed, my name written in the margin in her hand, an arrow pointing, a date, 1 month before she died. It wasn't formal, a note someone might make while thinking, but it sat there like a witness who didn't know to be nervous. I held it out to Hannah. See, I said, even her notes point this way. She touched the arrow with her fingertip. I've been pointing you toward institutional convenience, she said. Maybe because I was tired of being the only adult in rooms where I was still someone's child. We can take turns, I said. You can be my daughter today. Tomorrow you can be your child's mother. Both are adult work. She smiled, small and real. I'll bring boxes from storage, she said. I'll bring your quilts. I'll bring the photograph of the green door. I'll bring the lemons, I said, for pie and for proof. Patrick called from the driveway. The judge scheduled the hearing for noon tomorrow, he said. We'll be short but thorough. The bank manager will testify. We'll present the video. Do you want to speak? I do, I said. I have a few sentences left in me. After he hung up, Hannah and I sat in a comfortable quiet I had missed so long I forgot I missed it. The house made its small night noises, the tick in the vent, the refrigerator's sigh. I ran my hand along the table's edge and felt the nick where a science project had gone wrong in 1998. I had sanded it once and then left it, a reminder that imperfection points to presence. I walked to the front door and locked it. Then I unlocked it and locked it again, the way you test a word until it means what you need. In the entry mirror, a woman in her 60s looked back. She held herself like a ledger that balanced. I raised my chin to meet her. Then I turned out the light. Tomorrow, at noon, would a courtroom hear my mother's voice or only the echo of everyone else's plans for me? Morning carried the shape of a verdict even before we put on our better clothes. Patrick arrived at 9 with a garment bag and a stack of binders that made the kitchen look like an annex of the courthouse. Hannah knocked a minute later, hair tied back, the sort of face you wear when you won't let mascara be an alibi. She brought a tote of papers and, unexpected, my mother's blue cardigan. "You should wear it," she said, setting it on the chair. "She sits straighter when you do." I slid my arms in. The knit remembered my shoulders. On the table, we laid the proofs like a 3-step staircase: the will copy, the bank's contemporaneous letter, the USB. Patrick added witness lists, a short affidavit from the bank manager, and a printout of the email the anonymous sender had forwarded, the realtor's expedited message to Lester. He'd verified the headers. It would be an exhibit if the judge allowed it. "I'll object to relevance," he said. "They'll object to your capacity. We'll meet in the middle, where truth usually vacations." "We win there?" I asked. "We rest there," he said. "Winning is the court's hobby." Hannah held the plumber's invoice like a confession she'd already given. "If Laura brings up safety," she said, "I'll say the steps are being repaired and I was afraid. I won't gild it." "Plain is persuasive," Patrick said, "and we have what plainness loves: paper." We parked in a garage that smelled like tired Triumphs and took the elevator to the 4th floor. The hallway had the careful quiet of places where decisions happen before they are spoken. In the waiting area, Laura stood in a gray dress that was neither friend nor enemy. Lester hovered, phone in hand, a man trying to appear taller with posture alone. My heart did a trick it learned in adolescence, but I kept my voice grown. "Miss Hart," Laura nodded. "Mr. Doyle." "Good morning," Patrick said. "Shall we stipulate to the admissibility of the bank's records to keep this short?" "We'll see," she replied, the smile calm and sharp. "Our petition is narrow, a temporary freeze and a capacity evaluation." "Temporary freezes have a way of hardening into policy," I said. The words tasted familiar. The clerk called our case. Inside the courtroom was a clean geometry: flag, seal, the judge's bench, a sturdy eyebrow over the day. The judge, a woman with iron gray hair and a face that didn't apologize for its lines, asked us to state appearances. We obeyed. "Miss Turner," she said, "you're the movant. Proceed." Laura stood. "Your Honor, we seek a brief injunction to preserve the status quo while the court assesses Ms. Hart's capacity to manage significant assets. There have been falls, hospitalizations, and, recently, a hasty plan to change residences. Our request is not punitive, it's protective. We also have concerns about undue influence from Mr. Doyle, who," Patrick's eyebrow made a competent arc. "Counsel can withdraw that sentence or explain it," he said. "I'll rephrase," Laura said smoothly. "We simply ask that decisions be slowed until we can ensure Miss Hart is safe." The judge looked at me. "Miss Hart, how do you wish to respond?" "I want to go home," I said. "The home my mother left me with documents and a recording, which we brought. I want to change the locks and hire a man with an honest hammer. I can show you proof. My daughter can show you fear. Both are real. One is mine." The judge nodded once, as if to say, that sentence earned its chair. Patrick called the bank manager first. She testified with the unhurried precision of someone who likes receipts alphabetized. She identified the safe deposit box, the access logs, the letter in my mother's hand with the delivery condition, when she is living alone or held elsewhere without consent, and the existence of the account in my name. She explained how the bank maintained records that would make any argument lose weight. Laura cross-examined. Miss Collins, you're not a handwriting expert. I am familiar with Miss Hart's signature from banking documents, the manager said. And we also have a notary's log and stamp. But you don't know why Miss Hart required a loan, Laura pressed. I don't speculate, the manager said. I follow instructions. This was an instruction. If they couldn't argue with the bank's memory, would they try to erase mine? Patrick played the video. My mother's kitchen warmed the courtroom's angles. The judge's eyes softened the way strangers' eyes do when someone older refuses to be managed by the wind. Love is not a notarized document, my mother said to all of us, and the sentence perched on the wood-paneled air like a bird that had flown too far to be argued with. Laura rose. Your Honor, we don't contest that Miss Hart had intentions, but we must center the present. Miss Ruth Hart fell. She needed assistance. She is being influenced by an attorney who— Counsel, the judge cut in. Mr. Doyle represents his client. That's not influence. It's a job. Address capacity with facts. Laura pivoted with professional choreography. We have a declaration from Ms. Hannah Hart describing her mother's decline, confusion with appliances, missed medications. Hannah stood up unexpectedly, voice small but honest. Your Honor, I wrote that when I was frightened and tired and listening to a man who loves markets. My mother is forgetful in the ways a person is when years stack, but she is not unmoored. I brought keys back. I am repairing the stairs. I support her, moving home with help. Laura blinked. Lester shifted, outraged by unscripted lines. The judge watched Hannah with the attention you give a witness who didn't know they would be one. Ms. Turner? The judge asked. Anything else on capacity? Laura produced a paper like a flourish. We also have a power of attorney signed 3 months ago granting Hannah authority for financial decisions. This demonstrates that even Miss Hart understood the need for assistance. Patrick didn't even glance at me before saying, we object to authenticity. He held out his hand. The clerk passed the document. He scanned, then pointed to the signature line. Your Honor, this is not Ms. Ruth Hart's signature. The loops are wrong. The H leans right instead of left. The terminal stroke is straight when hers hooks. He slid another sheet from his folder. We have exemplars from the bank and from her driver's license renewal. Additionally, the notary stamp here belongs to a commission that expired the month before this document's date. We are prepared to call the notary's office. The judge took the pages, and for a moment the air thickened with the weight of ink. Laura's mouth tightened. Lester dropped his gaze to his phone, as if its glow could be a cave. Ms. Turner? The judge asked. Laura recovered the way practiced people do. We can withdraw that exhibit for now, she said. Withdraw it permanently, the judge said evenly, unless you plan to invite a different kind of proceeding. And Mr. Doyle, if you suspect fraud, you may file separately. Lester's thumb froze. Hannah leaned forward, breath shallow. I held the cardigan at the neck and felt my mother's knit say, keep one key. If a forged line had crossed our table, how many other quiet lines had already been drawn without my name? Patrick called me to the stand. He kept it short, not because I was fragile, but because he respected the economy of the moment. I told the judge about the nursing home doors, the billing paper, the key in the box, the lease to the green door. I said the sentence again. Do not confuse affection with permission, and watched the judge's mouth almost smile, not at me, but with recognition that a mother sometimes signs her name on your spine. Laura cross-examined carefully. Ms. Hart, do you remember the day you left the stove on? I remember the day I turned down the flame and fear turned it back up for me, I said. Yes, I left it once. I also remembered faster than anyone had to tell me. I bought a timer. The kitchen forgave me. People took longer. Do you balance your own checkbook? She asked. I carry my receipts in an envelope and read them out loud, I said. I hire people when numbers want to be fancier than I need. That is called living." She paused, perhaps surprised that answers did not consent to be small. "No further questions," she said. The judge leaned back. "Here is what I am thinking," she said. "Miss Hart is entitled to the dignity of her choices, especially when supported by clear documentation of property and intent. Safety concerns are real. They do not automatically translate to legal control. The forged, or at least irregular, power of attorney concerns me. I will not grant a freeze. I will order a brief, non-intrusive home safety assessment within 10 days, not to restrict Ms. Hart, but to ensure support. Ms. Hart may return to her home today. Counsel will exchange copies of all exhibits. And one more thing. If any party attempts to effectuate changes to Miss Hart's property without her written consent, they should expect sanctions." The word sanctions rearranged Lester's posture. He stared at a point above the door, as if an exit sign could mediate. Laura asked for clarification. "Your Honor, regarding the assessment, who selects the evaluator?" "The court," the judge said. "Neutral. I will appoint someone who knows the difference between risk and replacement." She looked at me. "Ms. Hart, do you understand?" "I do," I said. "And I will fix the stairs because people I love trip on the same thresholds over and over." "Good," she said. "Court is adjourned." The gavel's tap was barely audible, but the furniture in my life heard it. In the hallway, Hannah hugged me without asking the room for permission. "I'm sorry about the POA," she whispered. "I didn't know. I would never." "I know," I said. "Your name is not on that ink." Laura approached, voice low enough to live. "Miss Hart," she said, "we will not pursue the freeze further. I apologize for the document. It came from Lester's side of the desk. I should have confirmed the notary's commission more carefully." "Careful is a habit," Patrick said. "Consider acquiring it." Lester opened his mouth, shut it, then tried again. "We all want what's best," he said, blandness as strategy. "No," I replied. "You want what you can name as best with your vocabulary. I've learned new words. If the court had given me back my keys out loud, would our house remember that volume when the doors closed?" We left the building and stood on the steps, the day bright enough to make shadows honest. The schedule turned practical quickly. Patrick would email the court's appointee and arrange times. I would meet the locksmith at 5. Jim would start at 8. Mrs. Porter set to supervise with the lethal kindness of a pie tin. Hannah would pick up the quilts, the photo of the green door, my kettle. At home, the porch greeted us like a sentence finally punctuated. I made a ceremony out of calling the locksmith. He arrived with tools that looked like instruments and hands that respected locks the way you respect old dogs. He replaced the deadbolt and handed me 3 new keys. I kept one, gave one to Hannah, and set the third in the jewelry box under the USB, like a reminder that sometimes protection is as small as your palm. While he worked, Patrick printed a copy of the realtor email on my old printer, which coughed the way it did when Hannah was in high school and papers mattered enough to jam. He clipped it to the plumber's invoice and the bank letter, a small stack about intent not yet crime. We ate the last of the lemon pie at the table. I heard footsteps and looked up. Mrs. Porter, of course, carrying a casserole that contained all the ways a neighborhood apologizes for its gossip. "Let me see those steps," she said to Jim, who had joined us to measure. "Don't you go cheap on the risers, she's got high standards." He nodded like a man who respects the correct tyrants. Hannah brought in the quilts. One smelled faintly of cedar, the other of something that was my childhood before I owned it. We made the bed together. She smoothed the corners the way I taught her when she was 11 and furious at order. My phone chimed. A message from a number I didn't recognize. "We have additional documentation regarding communications with realtor Mark Benson. Anonymous." Another screenshot appeared. An audio file attachment labeled voicemail transcription. M4A from Lester to Benson. "Proceed with preliminary listing materials. Older owner will not be an issue once we secure POA." Time-stamped 2 weeks ago. My stomach cooled like a pan taken off the burner. Patrick, I called softly. He came, read, then looked at me. Do you want a file now? He asked. Or keep this in our pocket until someone pretends at amnesia? File, I said. My pocket is for sentences and keys, he nodded. I'll draft a motion regarding potential fraud and interference. We'll keep the emotions low and the verbs accurate. Hannah watched the screen, color leaving and returning to her face like a tide rehearsing. I didn't know, she said again. I know that doesn't undo, but I didn't. I believe you, I said. Believing you doesn't reduce what was tried in your name. She nodded, and we stood there with the fact like you stand with a sturdy tree. You cannot move it by wishing. If we turn the recordings on, whose voice would the house prefer? The one that tried to sell it or the one that paid the light bill with recipes and patience? Evening arrived wearing the smell of sawdust from the porch. Jim had stabilized the first step. By tomorrow, you'll have a stare that tells the truth, he said, writing the estimate on a carbon copy pad. And a handrail even a smart man can't argue with. Mrs. Porter hovered like a friendly hawk. And I've told the block what needs telling, she said. That Ruth is back, and no one touches her mailbox unless they're bringing cake. I laughed. Does cake count as a legal notice? I asked. In this neighborhood, she said, it holds up in court. Patrick packed his binders. I'll be at my office tonight, he said. Email any other screenshots. Lock the door behind me. Twice, if you like. Consider that your new ritual. I walked him out. On the porch, the street lamp flickered on, catching dust in the air like quiet applause. Today was a hinge, I said. It was, he agreed. Tomorrow will be a latch. After he left, Hannah and I washed the pie plates. She dried while I stacked, a choreography we'd abandoned when convenience took the lead. She glanced at the window above the sink and smiled. The burn mark, she said, looks like Kansas. That's from your grandmother's video, I replied. Now it's from our kitchen again. She set the towel down. I can stay tonight, she said, on the couch. If you want. I want you to want my key without wanting my caution, I said. But yes, stay. We made a nest on the couch with quilts that knew the stories already. I wrote a list for tomorrow. Courts evaluator at 2, contractor at 8, locksmith paid. Utilities call, thank you note for Florence. Pies returned to their rightful owners via empty plate. Before bed, I opened my jewelry box. The USB gleamed in plastic. The new key sat beside it, like something that finally learned the difference between heavy and anchoring. I added the index card, keep one key and one room, and laid the lid down gently, as if the box could hear my mother settle in. I turned off the kitchen light. In the hallway, the mirror held the evening version of me. Cardigan, gray hair pinned back, mouth not apologizing for its lines. I spoke to the air like a polite superstition. We're home, I said. Hannah's voice floated from the couch. We are. In the morning, when the court's evaluator walked through my rooms, would they hear my mother's video or Lester's voicemail? Morning arrived in a gentler tone than most beginnings deserve. The kitchen filled with a quiet that didn't need apology. The smell of coffee mixed with sawdust and lemon oil. The scent of work, of claiming space molecule by molecule. Hannah was already up, folding the quilt that had served as her overnight truce. Her eyes were tired, but her face had lost that thin layer of defense people wear when they expect argument instead of breakfast. Jim's in the yard, she said. He says the steps are sound enough for Judgment Day. Then I suppose I'll stop tripping, I said. She smiled faintly. The air was lighter. I took the blue cardigan from the chair and put it on. My courtroom armor now turned into housewear. At 9, Patrick called. The court's evaluator will arrive at 11 instead of 2. A woman named Dr. Miranda Keene, former occupational therapist, now court-appointed for elder cases. She's professional, but she's not heartless. Offer her tea. Don't perform. Just live. I'll live, I said. That's what got us here. Hannah started to clean the counters, nervous hands looking for an outlet. Do you want me to stay for the evaluation? Yes, I said. Stay as a witness, not a warden. She nodded, understanding the difference. When the doorbell rang, the evaluator stood with a clipboard and kind eyes that had seen every possible family story. Miss Hart, she asked, smiling, you have a beautiful home. May I? Please, I said. She walked slowly, noting the handrails, the lighting, the rugs. You've made adjustments, she said. My mother taught me that preparation isn't pessimism, I replied. It's choreography. She laughed softly. I might borrow that. We sat at the kitchen table. I offered her tea. She accepted. She asked about routines, memory, medications. I answered directly, not rehearsed, not resistant. I'm not here to test you, she said, just to ensure safety matches independence. I've learned they can coexist, I said. Hannah watched, quiet, her fingers tracing circles on her mug. The evaluator noticed but didn't comment. Your daughter seems supportive, she said. She is learning that support isn't substitution, I said. Hannah met my eyes and nodded, gratitude flickering like a candle deciding to stay lit. Then the evaluator asked, do you know what brought the court's concern? Yes, I said. A fear that called itself love, and a forged document that called itself help. Her pen paused. Forged? Patrick had asked me to be factual. The court found a power of attorney that didn't survive sunlight, I said. We've provided the notary records. She nodded once, a silent understanding passing between women who've seen how convenience dresses up as protection. Would her report tell the truth or translate it into something polite enough to be ignored? After her questions, she stood. I need to test a few things, she said. Mobility, reaction, recall. I rose and followed instructions, walked to the end of the hallway, turned, named 3 objects, cup, picture, door. She smiled. You move like someone who has places to go. Finally, I said. She made her notes, then turned to Hannah. Would you describe your mother's current living situation? Hannah took a breath. She's home. She can cook, shop online, and remember things I wish she'd forget. She's fine. Better than when I tried to manage her. That's honest, Dr. Keene said, and rare. Hannah laughed once, embarrassed. Honesty used to scare me, she said. Now I think it's the only furniture that fits in this house. The evaluator closed her folder. I'll submit my report by evening, but unofficially, I don't see grounds for limitation. You've built a safer life than the one they tried to give you. When she left, Hannah exhaled. That's it? That's the hardest part, I said. Living normally after everyone's watched you prove you can. At noon, Patrick called again. The judge received an early draft from the evaluator, he said. Favorable. She recommends no restrictions, but there's another update. The court clerk received a complaint from the Realtor Association regarding false authorization documents. It's being referred to the DA's office. Lester, I asked. Likely, Patrick said. They have his voicemail. It's enough to start a quiet inquiry. I didn't smile. Justice isn't sweet, it's sober. Hannah sat across from me, listening. Will he be charged? Maybe, Patrick said. But even if not, the pattern is clear. You're free to move forward. After the call, Hannah stared at the window. I thought love was keeping someone safe, she said. I never learned it could also mean letting them walk out of sight. Your grandmother tried to teach us that, I said. She just used paperwork instead of lectures. We both laughed. Real laughter this time, not defensive. Could peace survive once justice arrived, or would it fade the moment it had nothing left to protect? That afternoon, neighbors came by with casseroles disguised as curiosity. Mrs. Porter organized them into a line and announced, "No gossip unless it helps with insulation." Even Patrick dropped by, not as counsel, but as someone who wanted pie. He brought an envelope. The judge signed the final order. He said, "Case closed. The house, accounts, and decisions are yours, unrestricted." I opened the envelope. Inside was a single-page court order with a raised seal. I ran my fingers over it. The way you trace Braille made of relief. It's strange, I said, to have permission to own what was always mine. Paper just makes truth visible, Patrick said. Hannah hugged me quietly. I'm sorry it took strangers to tell me who you are, she said. Strangers with law degrees, I said. Could be worse. He laughed. Could be YouTube, he said. At least the comment section can't appeal. We ate pie again, Mrs. Porter's doing naturally, and the house filled with that rare sound, the sound of things staying where they belong. When evening came, I walked outside to the porch. The new steps felt firm beneath my feet. The sun folded itself behind the trees, and the sky turned the same blue as my cardigan. I held the new key, rubbed its edge with my thumb. My mother had once said that legacy isn't money. It's permission to live without apology. I finally understood. I called Florence at the nursing home. She cried a little when I told her I wouldn't be returning. I'll visit, I said. Bring lemon bars. You better, she sniffed. We like our saints baked. I laughed, thanked her, and hung up. Inside, Hannah had turned on the old record player. The sound crackled, warm and imperfect. She extended her hand. Dance, she asked. It had been years since I danced. My knees complained, but my heart complied. We moved clumsily, our laughter filling the kitchen's corners. When the song ended, I looked at her. If you ever feel guilty again, I said, remember this. Guilt is a story without a witness. You can set it down. She nodded, tears quiet but kind. Later, when she went to bed, I opened my jewelry box one last time. Inside, the USB, the court order, the index card, and the new key. I whispered to them like old companions, proof, not poison, and for the first time, I believed it. Sometimes the cruelest betrayal hides behind the word protection. My mother's box taught me that love without respect is just custody in a nicer frame. If someone ever tried to decide your life for you, remember, keep one key, one room, and one truth that only you can unlock. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from, and whether you've ever had to fight for your own definition of safety. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Stories like this one deserve a home as strong as their walls.